Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Mola Podcast, Honest Conversations with Mo. A little, tired, a little jet lagged. Just got back in from Boston earlier today. Um, but wanted to drop an episode, of course. It's been a while, so wanted to regroup and catch up with you all. But I want to go ahead and get right into it. Um, and it's something I've been thinking about lately in the sense of just even in terms of honestly the whirlwind of the last, few weeks since I last spoke to you all. In terms of how we kind of define ourselves, and that's kind of been a theme, throughout. Um, Obviously, I've always continued discussing, but I think kind of how we create new definitions, how are we choosing to define ourselves? And I speak a lot on, how do we define ourselves and how do we, view ourselves as individuals, but what type of definitions are we applying to ourselves, I think in terms of language, it's eh, very nuanced in the sense of I think we always up we typically just take a word and just apply that definition to ourselves instead of really stepping back and thinking, how does this word apply to me? How does this word, kind of define me, in that sense of who I am as an individual, and kind of what I bring to the table, and it's kind of interesting as you think about it that it becomes this almost layered issue where we apply the wrong definitions to ourselves, where we provide the wrong attributes to ourselves, and I even think about it, I think in terms of the major things, within our lives, you know, love, health, fitness, success, those kind of words and how are we choosing, to define those words, and applying it to ourselves and creating, the definitions within our own means, instead of just taking whatever a word means and allowing it to define us. So that's something that's really been sitting on, in terms of how we think about who we, become as people, you know? Are we applying the right attributes to ourselves? Are we properly attaching the right definitions to our lives, And then as, we continue to grow and continue to progress throughout, day to day, how are you changing the definitions of these words, It doesn't have to be, stale and stagnant. How are you constantly evolving the new definitions for everything that you do and everything that you're kind of into, the things you love, the people you care for, and then just simply, words in general, what words are you thinking that are, you consistently are applying to yourself, and how can you reshape that to apply a new meaning to it, create a newer feeling, a newer sensation to how we view, you know, negative connotations or negative experiences, how are we shaping it and how are we changing, because we're constantly changing. So I think it's important to kind of recognize that also, when you're creating these new definitions for who you're becoming and who you're turning into as an individual, because if you're still using the same stagnant words that have the same, you know, applied meanings constantly, then are you really changing? Are you really progressing? So I think it's important to kind of figure out how the words we're attaching to ourselves, to the things we do, to the things we're into, does that word's definition apply to us? Or did we choose to apply a definition that applies to us? I think that's key. And I think that's key in the sense of something, I'm major into and really big into is understanding your personal brand, and understanding your personal brand and how we all have our own brands and how we cultivating our brands, what values align and are true to our brands. And I think that's why it's important when you're thinking of the words you're connecting to yourself, if they are truly in line with who you are holistically as an individual and aligns with your brand. And I really think of myself, as I sat sat back and kind of these incredible experiences I had over the last 2-3 weeks, and the grueling work I kind of also put in at the same time, and realizing in terms of my brand, how do I choose to envision it, how I choose to define my overall brand, and it being honest with me and it being who I am. So just thinking back and realizing the the things I'm truly capable of, if I, set my mind forth to it. I think the thing about my brand I choose to define, or I choose to, place out there into the ecosphere is, very much so. Obviously, I call it the podcast Honest Conversations with Mo. I try to do my best to be honest. Very much, big on, obviously overall energy and, the right energy, and then, you know, and then what I'm more of my values, in terms of my personal brand is, just the necessary work that's required to um, become the best versions of ourselves, and kind of doing that continuously day in and day out. And I think also, authenticity, I mentioned that a lot, doing my best to be authentic uh, in all aspects, and just how I continue to grow my brand. And, my brand is going to continue to evolve, and I'm seeing how, it's shifted over the last, few years, especially, getting, as life, as you continue to grow and you see how you've changed as a person, and how your brand or things you value has changed. And just really noticing all of that and being, kind of proud in the sense of the growth that it has taken, especially for me, and kind of how I'm continuing to, cultivate the overall life I want to live, and choosing to exemplify a brand that, is authentic to me, as I continue to, progress in this world. So I think it's important, for everyone out there, and for all of us, to figure out how are we choosing to envision our brands, and how we're choosing to grow our overall brands, because that's your kind of story in a sense. Your brand is your story. We all have brands. And how are you doing the things necessary to live true to the brand that is you? And I think what's vital in understanding your brand is something I want to dive into next. And that is, covering versus uncovering talent. By that, I mean covering the sense of hiding parts of yourself from, not only from yourself, but from everyone else, because you fear backlash, or you fear that unease. And I can kind of relate to that in the sense of, this sense of, social anxiety. It takes a while for me, get comfortable, of course, in, any space, but also understanding that, I don't have to cover my talents and cover authentically who I am at any point, in what we do in our day to day, and who we are, who we're surrounding ourselves with. If we're not being our authentic selves 100% of the time, we're really hurting ourselves in the long run. So I think it's important to kind of uncover your talent and be willing to just be, and not really getting caught up in, you know, expectation, concepts, ideals, and just being authentic to you. And I think when we're covering our talents, not only are we not really being true to ourselves and trusting ourselves in that sense, we're really hurting who we're looking to become moving forward. Because how will you know who you look who? How will you know who are you looking to become if you're always hiding from yourself? So I think you've got to be willing to uncover and just be yourself 100% of the time, because that's where the magic kind of really happens, and where you can just trust yourself and trust your abilities, because you realize, hey, this is me, and you accept, hey, this is you. And being able to accept yourself is so key in what we do in this world, because you're all you got. So you got to be willing to trust yourself. And if you're covering from other people, you're also, covering from yourself. So you're really never even really learning yourself. So I think it's key to uncover, because that's the way you find you as you continue to grow. So yeah, got to uncover those talents, people, because if we had our talents, what talents do we have left? And speaking of talents, it is playing day. My Lakers finished out the season 47-35. If I'm not mistaken, we're still A seed. Well, we got the A seed. I know we're shooting for that 6 seed, but we got the A seed. But it is playing day, the NBA Finals, quote unquote, today start. But obviously, you know, later on this week is when the finals begin. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. We play the Pelicans tonight. Obviously, we just recently played them and got the win. But excited. Obviously, the scenario people are throwing out there is if we should tank uh, this this game, because who is waiting in the number 2 seed? The Denver Nuggets. And a team that we've struggled very mightily. So I want to say 0-7, and dating back to obviously the Western Conference Finals against the Nuggets, including 0-3 this season, so 0-7 total recently against the Nuggets, and just realizing like, hey, it's gonna be a battle. Might as well play them from the jump. I feel like people are saying, hey, we should tank the potential of the Golden State Sacramento winner, which I don't think I want to face Sacramento. We struggled against Sacramento this year, obviously pretty well against Golden State, because obviously their lack of size against us, but and our ability to attack the basket, and get to the free throw line, which Golden State of course struggles at. But yeah, of course, I want us to take the Battle of Denver head on, beat the Pels tonight, and excited for the remainder of the playoffs, because it's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun playoffs. Obviously, how the season ended was incredible. It was just crazy how that went. Just a wild time in terms of the conclusion to the season, because none of the seedings were solidified. It was so much fun to watch. Although you really get to watch it like that, but just really keeping track and being kind of in tune and knowing, hey, the playoffs are around the corner and it's about to be fun, man. You got obviously Denver's awaiting the play-in winner for the 7 seed. Thunder, the number 1 seed in the West, are awaiting the 8 seed winner, whether it ends up being Golden State, Sacramento, or the uh, what is it? The loser of the 7-8 matchup. So just that it's gonna be exciting. Clippers, Mavs. That's always a fun battle. So it's gonna be another great series between Clippers, Mavs. My favorite series is probably gonna be Suns, Timberwolves. Because the Suns getting healthy at the right time, The Timberwolves, obviously still Cat's. I think he's back to being a bit healthy. Well, coming off his injury, but getting back into the swing of things and trying to get healthy and hopefully potential long playoff run for the Timberwolves. We'll see. Ant-Man, how's he gonna shine? Against KD, Book Bill. That's gonna be fun to watch. And it's gonna be an incredible series. In the East, you got the Celtics awaiting. I want to say is it Hawks Bulls. I want to say, yeah, that's the plan, and then the winner of, dang, what's the other one? Pacers. No, I don't remember. I ain't gonna lie to you, I ain't been focusing on the Eastern Conference like that. The West has been insane. The East. Hold on, let me pull it up while we looking. But yeah, man, the playoffs are about to be crazy, man. It's about to be insane. And then speaking of, as we finish out the seedings, before we finish out the Western Conference, because I think the West is just so deep. It's just such a fun. I mean, obviously, my Lakers being in there, Okay, so we got, all right, overall, I'm going to give y'all the full playoff breakdown matchup. All right, so. And then shout out to the Thunder, young team. Shea Gildas leading that squad. Man, it's just so fun. But all right, let me give y'all the full, NBA playoffs kind of bracket and seeding. So we got the number one seed, the Thunder, of course, in the West. Number one seed, Celtics in the East. Then, as I mentioned, 4-5 in the West, Clippers, Mavs. Go head to head, 4-5 in the East, Cavs, Magic. Ooh, that's gonna be a good series. Cavs, Magic. Ooh, two young, hungry teams. Is Donovan Mitchell healthy enough to kind of propel, or is Paolo? Is Paolo gonna lead this? Young rising Magic team to a potential Eastern Conference playoff run, or they just giving something for the fans to cheer about. So that's gonna be a good series. Back to the West, you got Timberwolves Suns, like I mentioned. Ooh, that's about to be fun. That's gonna be fun basketball. And then of course the Nuggets 2 seed. We win tonight. We play the Nuggets. We lose, we await the winner of Kings Warriors, and then play potentially the Thunder. But I want to play the Nuggets. Gotta face the challenge head on at this point. So if it's the Nuggets, it's the Nuggets, man. And then back to the East, you got Pacers Bucks. That's gonna be fun, even though Giannis is out for an early stretch. If Dame's gonna probably take over that series early on, and then I mean, can the Pacers play defense? Just a little bit, get a few stops, because I mean they pretty much had the Bucks numbers kind of somewhat throughout the season. So if they can string a few runs together, and their high potent offense can get a few stops, especially in the playoffs, where it's that half court offense, so you got to find ways to get baskets. So it's gonna be fun to see how that matchup is gonna be, because without Giannis early on for the Bucks again in the playoffs, heading into the playoffs, how is the Dame acquisition really gonna light a fire uh for the Bucks, and but then again they got Doc, so we'll see. Then you got the 2 seed Knicks awaiting the 7 seed, the winner of Sixers Heat, and that's Sixers Heat 7-6. I mean 7-8 Sixers Heat. That's gonna be a fun matchup. That's gonna be fun. And then the Celtics, who are waiting the 8 seed, and that's of course the loser of either Sixers Heat and the winner of Bulls Hawks. That's a good one. So it's gonna be a fun playoffs early on. I'm feeling good about my Lakers. You will of course continue to dive into it as the playoffs continue, but excited for the playoffs. It's playing day. Lakers, let's go ahead. Just go ahead and play. Go ahead and play the Nuggets. Might as well. Might as well face the task at hand head on, because is gonna be a battle regardless. So might as well. And then next, the WNBA draft was last night. Really didn't get a chance to watch it, of course, but shout out to Caitlin Clark going #1 pick to the Indiana Fever. Cameron Brink #2 to the LA Sparks, to my Sparks. I actually have a few teams in WNBA, but we'll get into it. #2, Cameron Brink. 3, Big Millie Cardoza, Camila Cardoza, big buckets, Millie, big boys going to the sky. 4, Rakia Jackson to my Sparks again. To the Mystic, who was shout out Angel Reese, seventh pick to the Sky again. I think I'm gonna be a Sky fan too. Millie and Angel, that's gonna be a fun squad to watch. Who is it? Aaliyah Howard going to the Mystics. That's gonna be fun. Her and Shakira Austin gonna be fun hooping, seeing them together. And if a lot of people don't know this, WNBA is the fours league. It is a big women's league. They get in boards, and I mean bigs. I mean by the 4 position, 4 or 5. They be cooking. So it's gonna be fun to see a guard like Caitlin Clark. How she gonna be getting buckets out there? Dang, it's about to be a fun league. Oh man, the season's about to be just so fun. Shout out Deja Fair. I want to say I can't. Where Deja go again? Let me pull it up. That's why we had the internet. It's the purpose of the internet to just connect it. But where Deja go? Deja went. I was thinking Aces, and I was like, why not trust it? Okay, Deja did go to the Aces. Oh my gosh, the Aces got a bucket getting Deja Fair. Oh my god. Are they going 3-peat? Oh man. They got K Martin too. Dang, Aces gonna be cooking again, boy. They got a solid young core too. Young pieces to come off the bench. I think if Deja can play a solid role, coming off the bench, another score to that team. Oh man, she don't even really gotta get buckets. I mean, she can get buckets, but she ain't even gotta get buckets like that. Oh man, Aces is about to be cooking. Shit, the WNBA draft. I mean, dang, I'll probably watch the highlights later. I didn't even really get a chance to watch that either. I want to sit down and watch the interviews and all that. But dang, they got the Asia Fish. Sheesh, they got a real bucket getter. 3rd leading scorer all time in the NCAA. Ooh, to the Vegas Aces. Oh my God. Talk about the rich getting richer. The Aces are building a dynasty. They are very much building a dynasty, man. I'm telling you, it is insane what's happening out there in Vegas. Obviously, they investing the money into it. They got the picks for it. They investing the money into it. But yeah, man. And speaking of which, of course, got to do an NCAA, Final Four recap. Especially since I was also out there for the Final Four out in Phoenix. What an incredible experience! What an incredible time! You just see the passion people have for their universities, for their schools, the love for college sports, and just the overall, environment and the great people of, Arizona, of Phoenix. And yeah, I'll definitely going back to Phoenix, catch a few Suns games, next season, So I'm gonna be excited, catch some Mercury games. Who knows? So I'm gonna definitely be back in definitely be back in Phoenix. But I was out at the men's Final Four. But we'll of course start with the ladies' record-setting numbers, cause they ran it anyways. They had it from the jump. Shout out to Don Staley, Millie Cardoza, my Asia Wally, Pow Pow, dang, the whole squad. Uh, Dang. Shout out to South Carolina Lady Gamecocks. Yeah, they had another perfect season back to back. I'm guessing, this is the year back to back. That's why it kind of fears me that we playing them. First game. Don't want to go back to my Lakers, but just make me random think about that. The year back to back. So, incredible. What Iowa LSU was an incredible game to watch. Oh man, uh, UConn SC. I just wish I had to think about it because I did had a UConn SC before. Last time I was talking to y'all, and, talking about Juju. But speaking of UConn, Page just couldn't get it done against SC, of course. And yeah, Iowa SC, man, what a game, man, what a game. Caitlin Clark, but just didn't have enough. Just didn't have enough, and that just shows you the dominance of South Carolina and that overall team and what dynasty Dawn Staley is building over there at South Carolina. Is incredible, and Brianna Johnson, a freshman, getting buckets. Oh man, they gonna be set and they gonna be good. All right, South Carolina gonna be probably running it back, so we'll see. But it was an incredible women's Final Four, and then for the men's, uh, State versus Purdue. State could have won. I just felt, Edie, of course, to go, but State didn't capitalize on their, on the turnovers that they were able to get off Purdue, and just couldn't capitalize. And then they just got tired, and Zach Edey, hooping as Zach Edey does, and got his buckets. And then UConn kind of, who is he? Who do UConn wax? That's how I completely forgot. This will be a good game. Anyways, UConn completely waxed. Damn, why did I forget who UConn played? UConn. Who did UConn play? Why did I just blank on that just now? Like, why did I blank on who UConn played? That is crazy. UConn's men. Who did UConn's men Final Four? Bama. That's why. They just completely dominated Bama. So, it was pretty much set as they cooked Bama. Man, it's insane. It's crazy, man. Yeah, it was an incredible experience being out there in Phoenix. And then UConn, of course, running up and down on Zach Edey pretty much because he was the only one that showed up on championship day, and them, repeating as back-to-back champs. It was incredible fun Final Four. It's gonna be exciting for next year, man. Excited. And then want to get into now. Of course, I try to reveal the new segment last week. The book review. Bringing it back this week. So for this week's book is Single on Purpose by John Kim. And Single on Purpose by John Kim is essentially kind of, obviously, speaks on to aspects of, dating and, romance, but also the importance of, kind of just dating yourself and learning yourself. And I feel like, definitely that idea of, how with relationships and how we're, on this journey to be connected with others, that we sometimes lose sight of ourselves, and we have to kind of tap back into ourselves at times. And I think it really does a great job in really speaking on how important it is, even relationship, not relationship, however your current relationship status is, to continuously date yourself and continuously learning yourself and getting to know yourself, because that's the only thing that's going to allow a relationship with anyone to be successful is you knowing yourself. So that's love the book, love the concepts within the book. I think it's very insightful. Definitely would highly recommend. It's a great book, and it's touches on various different aspects too, and how we look at ourselves, throughout the dating process, how we're looking at how we are, our holistic selves, mind, body, spirit, how we're dating ourselves in that regard too. So I think it's a very, very insightful book, and I highly recommend. But yeah, that's Single on Purpose by John Kim. Now definitely want to get into top four. And I think my favorite album, of course, is "Might Delete Later" by Cole, and I'll get, of course, it's a 7 minute drill, but this "Might Delete Later," definitely loving this album, man. Uh, Another incredible body of work by Cole, where he's really giving you the bars, really tapping in, fever, kind of giving you uh more vibes too, and really loving it, really enjoy this album, uh, and something I've been, kind of going back and forth to, of course, within tapping within other music, but yeah, get into 7 minute drill, of course, yeah, 7 minute drill, yeah, the obviously Cole's response to "Like That" by Kendrick Lamar on "We Don't Trust You," Metro and Future. And obviously, I think what Kendrick's bar towards Cole was the whole "not walking with a stick," Andre 3K bar. I feel like that was the only real bar towards Cole. Everything else was shots towards Drake. But it was interesting. Cole's response definitely understood where it was coming from. Obviously, it's definitely seemed like a warning shot. In how Cole kind of mm, monotone, yeah, very mundane approach to how he was, attacking the verse, really, because he wasn't really attacking the verse, and wasn't really going hard like that. But attacking, of course, Kendrick's discography, stature, and then very much, the bravado of Cole, definitely, was love that side of Cole, so definitely was excited to see that. But yeah, definitely a warning shot. Then, of course, to later see, at Dreamville Fest, where he apologized for the track, and said he was going to delete it from the streaming networks. And as a Cole fan, I'm really understanding like the approach Cole has taken to his career and how he's kind of built his career. I feel like, honestly, and how I see this is, I feel like this was definitely like a marketing move. I definitely feel it was genuine for sure, but I think it was definitely a marketing move and approach to the overall kind of approach to the fall off, because I feel like the fall off is about to be this sensational body of work, but this rollout has been kind of interesting. Obviously, the "Might Delete Later" video, videos on YouTube, to now obviously the album of "Might Delete Later," and this it's this more, this approach to how Cole is, kind of telling the story of, hey, when you think of a fall off, when thinking of definitions, as I spoke to earlier, when you think of the fall off and how it changes you as a person, because you're no longer that same person, and the acclaim and the recognition isn't there anymore, and that's how you kind of envision a fall off. And I think this is Cole's like almost kind of first step to kind of hinting like, oh, we all think I'm falling off, blah blah blah, because I'm not wanting to come and be as aggressive when it comes to my bars and the friendships I built within the industry, within the music and the rap industry, and overall, entertainment industry, all the connections, whatever it may be. But seeing how I think, and then just, thinking background, knowledge in the sense of, Cole's got his communications degree from St. John's, and, you know, his degree in communications from St. John's. So it's like, okay, all right, it's starting to make sense. I feel like, communications is messaging. So how's Cole messaging this fall off album? I feel like this was kind of that start. So I feel like if Kendrick was to drop bars back at Cole, I feel like Cole would definitely respond back. I think people are overhyping the si- situation. I don't think it was as serious as obviously, we want favorite rappers, bars, whatever. Of course, we love the competition of hip hop, competition of everything. But I think when you really think about it and take a step back, I felt like for me, just and being such a huge Cole fan, I felt like this was like more of a marketing kind of approach, uh, that messaging for the fall off, and as that continues, is gonna be interesting to continue to see the rollout for this project. And then next we have what is it? Oh, as we continue on rap beefs, the Drake dropping "Give Me 50," Fireballs, Metro continue like there you go. Man, obviously Rick Ross randomly just jumping in. That's been fun to see and kind of watch it. It's just so random how Rick Ross kind of entered himself into the beef. Obviously, Drake threw shot. It was like Rick Ross got it through. He just into the beef, man. Yeah, it's been funny, and it's gonna be fun, man. Music is hip hop is fun again. I guess that's what everybody's excited about. So I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see the stories that are crafted and narrated throughout these, beefs. It's gonna be interesting, man, and how how individuals are choosing to recreate or redefine their brands, and I think we're kind of really seeing that in these beefs and these disses. So it's gonna be fun. I mean, I feel like what since Control, there's been a lot of sneak dissing. So now, actually getting bars and people throwing actual jabs and, name dropping or whatever. And how are people choosing to define their brands and how are people going to view and, look at these artists and these individuals differently, the same. And so that's going to be interesting too. So that's going to be crazy. As I said, show I've been currently watching. Dang, I ain't really been watching much. Been on the road so much, so I ain't really been watching too much. Just really like YouTube, trying to catch, Gil's Arena, of course, whenever I can. Unkin Ocho. I was watching a lot of what was it? American Dad, just playing Cartoon Network to go to sleep. So I was watching, on American Dad, I guess. So yeah, just not really watching much, but besides, some pause and quick little YouTube videos every now and then, and obviously, some hoops every now and then. Um, what do I currently have going on? As I said, I just got back from Boston. Been kind of exhausted from that, so gonna definitely rest up. But excited for as I said, heading into the next part of what I'm looking forward to is this trip to Turks and Caicos. Excited, the grind that I've put in the last few weeks and knowing it was all rewarding, knowing what I was really able to learn about myself and who I'm becoming and my overall capabilities and how I can continue to, refine myself and, sharpen my tools. So just excited for this trip to kind of unwind and relax, quick little break, and then, get back into the swing of things, man. Cause, just excited for just the continuous exploration and endless possibilities that are out there, in the world. So just looking forward to what's next, and then kind of how growing and new roles, connecting with building new relationships. It's gonna be fun, man, and it's gonna be exciting, on this journey, especially. And then just man, just wanted to relax, man, just after these last few weeks. And oh man, and excited to see what Turks and Caicos is all about. I'm excited be out there, go have some fun for my 30th birthday, and unwind and relax, and yeah, and then that's pretty much it, man. I appreciate y'all for listening as always. Once again, thank you for tuning into the Mo Love Podcast, Honest Conversations with Mo, and yeah, just looking forward to the things ahead. I'll tap in with y'all another time. And until next time. All right, peace.